Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Wednesday, July 30th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Texas game in 31 days, the game against Michigan in 122 days. If you're planning your next event, make it unforgettable with Grateful Griddle, Columbus's favorite food truck, serving up smash burgers, gourmet sandwiches, and good vibes. Book your catering today at GratefulGriddleOH.com. We are now 2 days away from the start of Ohio State's fall camp. Actually, well, 1 day. You know the bit here with tomorrow morning. 1 day away. Starts Thursday. Buckeyes will open fall camp. We will be there. So will a bunch of Ohio State fans. Practices 1, 2, and 3 are open Thursday, Friday, Saturday this week. So today we're going to be talking about some of these things we are most interested to see this week, whether it's this week, maybe even through the balance of fall camp, sort of the storylines that we're maybe most interested in looking at on the offensive side of the ball. Going to be breaking that down with our buddy Tony Gerdeman of BuckeyeHuddle.com. Tony, we're going to do this in sort of a draft order. So we'll just sort of go back and forth picking the storylines or the positional battles, whatever it is that we're most interested in for fall camp. And I will say, you go ahead. Your honor.
Well, one of the things that I'm looking forward to is stuff that we haven't seen yet, or stuff that we're still waiting to see. Like every day or every time we break camp or we start camp and it's like the first day of spring, what are you first looking for? Or fall camp, what are you first looking for? I think one of the things I'm looking forward to in that first weekend is just our first look at Turbo Rogers and Isaiah West at running back to see what they look like. And again, it's hard to judge running backs during camp, but we watched Bo Jackson and we were impressed, and that was during spring camp. So I'm just looking forward to seeing some guys that we haven't seen yet and seeing how those two do. And, are they getting, the 10% of the reps at the end, what's going on there. So that's one of the things. It's just seeing the guys that we haven't seen yet and having a baseline for those guys.
All right. Well, I will scoop in and take Kevin Durant at number 2. Hey, Tony, I think there's going to be a lot of interest in the quarterback battle as well. I like your sort of avant-garde approach to this. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be super basic and say, let's talk about the quarterbacks and who's going to be the starting quarterback for Ohio State. While the guys who are new this fall obviously are very interesting. Sort of your first look at these guys and the first look at these guys in pads especially and practicing. The quarterback battle, that's going to be, to me, that this is the storyline of the year. And, if you're looking at just this week, I am not expecting to have an answer on the quarterback battle this week. That's usually something that happens. You get through maybe the first 2 scrimmages, and then we find out when we talk to Ryan Day on like Monday, August 18th. That's sort of, if you're looking at an over-under on when I'm expecting to see an answer there, that's probably about right. However, I do, that to me, that's still so clearly the defining story of fall camp when you're looking back at this a year from now, 6 months from now, 5 years from now, whatever. You look back at fall camp 2023 and the story was, who's the starting quarterback, Kyle McCord or Devin Brown? When you look back at fall camp 2025, I feel like it's going to be, who's the starting quarterback? Is it Lincoln Kienholz or Julian Sayin?
Yeah, you can go ahead and call me Joe Dumars. And I like the upside of Darko Milicic, frankly, but
he looked great against that chair in the workout video.
See, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I mean, to see where they are, have they continued to progress? And of course they have, how much so? And, is somebody standing out ahead of the other? That's where we'll see 3 days, and each day it's going to be like, maybe one guy is better than the other. But what if the same guy is better in our opinion, in the collective opinion, those 3 days? Well, then clearly he's the starting quarterback, except pads aren't on yet. There's no pass rush really. So there's still a lot of things to figure out there. How about this one, Tom? I want to see what that first team offensive line looks like. And we had somebody on our message board saying, hey, watch out for Austin Sierreveld at left tackle instead of right tackle. So now I'm curious, because when people pop in with some info, it's like, well, I want to see what it looks like. But then also remember, Ethan Onionwa started out spring ball at right tackle, and Austin Sierreveld started out at left tackle in spring ball, but they eventually flipped. So is what we see in the first weekend going to be what we see in the lead up towards Texas? I don't know, but I think we have a pretty good feel for who those 5 players are that are with the ones. but I want to see what kind of consistency there is with who's at left tackle, who's at right tackle, and whether there's any kind of flipping or, switching around.
Yeah, that would be the next thing that I had listed as well, the offensive line. And like I said, I think we know who the 5 guys are going to be very likely. But how do you move them around? You could align them. You got guys with some flexibility, and we saw even within the season last year, you had guards moving to tackle, and you had, I mean, I don't know how many different combinations of offensive line they had last year, but it had to be at least 4 or 5 at least. When you had the Zen Michalski line and the Josh Simmons line, and then you had, different combinations of guards in there during the college football playoff with Donovan Jackson at left tackle. So, and we have seen a lot of shuffling at the offensive line position in previous camps as well. You had the 4 tackle offensive line in 2021. That was some drama. We had, and you've had years as well where you've had, positional battles at guard and who's going to go where. And yeah, I'm intrigued enough by the rumors of potentially flipping the tackles that I'm ready to be I'm ready to be intrigued by what we see on Thursday morning. And then, as we always say, you watch the first practice of whether it's the spring or the fall, and you go, okay, how much did we really learn? I don't know how much we really learned, but what we see now, 3 days from now, 2 weeks from now, whatever it is, it's a useful comparison point. It's not what you see on day 1 of fall camp is going to be exactly what it is as they finish fall camp. We've seen lots of drama in the offensive line room with that virus that went through last year and shuffled guys all around. So, this is not the final answer on practice 1, but it's certainly a very, very useful data point just to sort of get a sense for where their heads are. Because they're not putting stuff out there on practice 1 just to mess with people or just to throw misinformation out. Like this is what they're really thinking. This is what they're really looking at right now. And then we'll see whether that changes.
Is it your turn now?
Well, yes, I suppose it is. So I have 2 here, and I have one of them is running backs, and I feel like maybe we talked about the other half of the running back. So I guess let's talk about this. You mentioned running backs 4 and running backs 5, probably entering the fall, guys who didn't get really to participate in the spring, Turbo Rogers because he wasn't here, and Isaiah West because he was banged up. I'm interested in what kind of separation is there between running back 1, who is presumably James Peoples, running back 2, who is presumably CJ Donaldson, and running back 3, who is presumably Bo Jackson. Ryan Day has talked about the fact that they were impressed with Bo Jackson, but he's probably not going to be right there, ready to start right at the first game of the season, ready to be in a significant role that first game of the season. I want to know, is there a bigger gap between running back 1 and running back 2, or running back 2 and running back 3? And how is that going to change over the course of the fall? Because I feel pretty confident that James Peoples is going to be running back 1, even though CJ Donaldson has more collegiate experience. CJ Donaldson figures to be running back 2 and figures to be a nice complement to James Peoples. And then how far behind is Bo Jackson? Is he kind of nipping at CJ Donaldson's heels coming out of the fall or a fall camp and entering the season? Or is there still a little bit of separation there? Because it feels like you're probably going to go in with the same order that you come out with. But if it's number 2 is closing on number 1, or number 1 is pulling away from number 2, or number 3 is closing with number 2, or whatever, that change is going to be really instructive in terms of, hey, what might this look like in a month or 2? You can kind of probably project some of that growth out moving forward as well.
And let's not also forget Sam Williams-Dixon, who will be in there somewhere as well. But I fully expect CJ Donaldson to get some reps with the 1s just because he's a senior and he did in the spring. But yeah, that's interesting. Is Bo Jackson closer to CJ Donaldson than CJ Donaldson is to James Peoples? Probably not right away, but that's going to be something to watch as they go on. Here's another one that I have, Tom. How much are we seeing the non-slot receivers working in the slot? And we know Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate will, but how advanced is Mylan Graham now at that? Because we know that's eventually what they want him to be able to do, because they want everybody to be able to play all 3 spots. Do we see much of that in camp where it looks like, it's no big thing for him? is Quincy Porter to that point? We know it took, Carnell Tate was able to do that as a freshman. Obviously, Jeremiah Smith was able to do that as a freshman. Can Quincy Porter get into that and become one of those guys that can play 2 or 3 spots as a true freshman? They don't necessarily want to do that with guys, but if a guy is already like, I know X, give me Z, give me H, let's go, because no reason to wait around. Let's get them going if they can handle it. So I'm interested to watch as much as we can, because again, there is always so much going on, and it's like, if I could just watch the receivers, then I'd have a lot to tell you. When you're trying to watch everything, then you get lost. You can get lost a little bit. So, watching what I can of what I can, I'll be interested to see those receivers.
Yeah, for sure. That's always a spot where there's more talent than there are spots on the field. So how are they going to, who's going to earn, some kind of a role, whether it's a starting role or just a rotational role? How many guys can they really rotate in? Because, yeah, you'd love to play 6 receivers, but if you're playing 6 receivers and you're playing a tight end, which they generally tend to want to do, and you're playing a running back, which they generally tend to want to do, getting that 6th receiver on the field means you're taking Jeremiah Smith off the field. And I don't think they want to do that in a whole lot of first halves this year. So, yeah, it is going to be a deep and talented wide receiver group. And how does that group sort itself out? That's an interesting one. The last thing I had was, we got to talk about the tight ends, Tony. It is, as we know, as has been well established over the years, it is the year of the tight end. Now more than ever, though, because, man, Ohio State has a tight end in Max Klare that they have had some good receiving tight ends over the years. Cade Stover put together some really impressive seasons a couple of years ago. G. Scott had had some really big catches in the Texas game, the Cotton Bowl, had that long catch from the very first play from scrimmage in the Rose Bowl against Oregon. But man, oh man, I don't know that they've had a tight end that can catch and threaten downfield the way that Max Klare can. As I said earlier, they always want to have that tight end on the field because they feel that's important for, the run game and all that kind of stuff. But also, it feels like the tight end might be the kind of weapon that they haven't had at that position for quite a while this year. I'm just intrigued to see more from him because we saw flashes in the spring. You figure he's going to be more integrated in the offense this fall, and I'm really intrigued to see what that looks like.
Yes, Tom, also known as El Año del Ala Cerrada, the year of the tight end, for those who are so inclined.
For all those who celebrate.
There you go. and he, Max Klare could be Julian Sayin or like Kienholz's best friend this season, with so much attention on the receivers, and for good reason. How do you focus on all of these guys? So I think Max Klare is going to have a big impact, but it might be quality over quantity in terms of some of those impact, because again, they're going to slow it down. You're playing maybe 65 snaps a game on offense, and I think they're going to play quite a bit of 12 personnel as well. So you'll have some opportunities, but yeah, he showed it in the spring game how deadly he can be down the seam. But I think there's a lot more that he can do. And then what happens if they start designing stuff for him rather than just you're the third read? Like, what does it look like when he's the first read in some of these offensive plays?
Yeah, and with teams, you figure Texas in the Cotton Bowl did a pretty good job taking away Jeremiah Smith, but that was not, we'll just put one guy on him. That took a little bit. That was an asset-intensive game plan. So there will be opportunities for other guys if Texas goes that way again in game 1 in just 31 days. So if they do, that may be a Max Klare game. We will see how that goes. But that'll all start this week, Thursday. We will be out at practice at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Football season is here. The longest off season in major North American sports is over. Hallelujah. College football is back in Columbus, Ohio. We will be there to cover all of that for you at BuckeyeHuddle.com and at YouTube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. We've added some new teammates this week and had some new shows for you at YouTube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. Juck on Bucks, who you may have seen on YouTube. He's doing a new live nightly show a couple times a week for us. It has been the initial reaction to that has been extraordinarily positive. I'm enjoying it. Tony's enjoying it. Kevin was on the first episode. He enjoyed it. So we'll make sure, we're guessing you will enjoy it as well. So just one more reason to subscribe at youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle and also at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.